Shalom from Jerusalem. It's a tragedy that I'm not able to be with you in South Africa. But the tragedy is not mine. The tragedy is that of the community in South Africa and of the Jewish people. Because the real problem is a Jewish leadership, both in your country and in Israel, and indeed in the world, which looks upon the Jewish community everywhere as its own personal fiefdom. Feudal barons who control the money and eventually the lives of people. They're the ones who decide who shall live and who shall die, who shall appear and who shall not appear. They did it to Jabotinsky, and they did it to Begin, and now they do it to me. And these are the people, the same power brokers, who tragically this time have been joined by Likud, people who once suffered the same thing that they now do unto me. The Jewish establishment in South Africa is not worse than any other one. The tragedy is, it is not one bit better. People who are chosen not for their scholarship, not for their knowledge, not for their Jewish piety, but people who are chosen for one reason only, their money. That is nowhere to choose, a Jewish leader. And so hand in hand, they and a Simcha Dinitz and a War Zionist movement, in an incredible display of Bolshevism, a dictatorship, simply threaten the South African community, the Federation, the Zionists, that if they would have me speak, they would be barred from the War Zionist movement. What an outrage. If such a thing were to happen in the Soviet Union, the world would point anger at a display of totalitarianism. And yet that is exactly what happened here. And perhaps you can see from this a bit of what happens to me daily in the state of Israel, the Jewish state, the democratic Jewish state, which is not so democratic and unfortunately not so very Jewish. 4 years I had not been allowed to appear on state radio or television. A Knesset member, Communist Party Knesset members appear, Arab Knesset members appear, and I've been barred. This isn't a private station. This is state television, state radio. Makes no difference. 4 years I've not been allowed to appear in a high school, on a university campus. An outrage. Laws, as a Knesset member, the most basic right of any Knesset member is the fact that he has been sent to the Knesset by his constituents, by his voters, to propose laws that they want. By fiat, the Knesset decides that the Speaker has the right to decide on his own what is a racist bill. Who is he to decide what is a racist bill? Communists, the Arabs, propose all kinds of bills that go to the very heart of the destruction of Israel. And I have had bills barred. They haven't. It's only part of the tragedy. It's an ongoing tragedy, for I have seen the faces of real hate at my rallies, legal rallies, with police permits. And there, the faces twisted with hate, the leftists, the Kibbutzim, throwing rocks, and shouting death, death to Kahane. These are the faces that we saw 40 years ago, Altalena, and the same people, the same groups murdered 16 soldiers of the Irgun off the shores of Tel Aviv. These are the people that, in their hate, turned over members of the Irgun and the Sternists to the British Army. This is the tragedy. And the tragedy within the tragedy is how docile are the Jewish people. Like lambs, sheep, flocks. One can do anything to them and they may object for a week, but they accept. They continue to support the same leaders. They continue to give money. They continue to perpetuate the tragedy of a Jewish leadership, which, God help us, is bringing us all down to destruction. So I cannot be with you in person, but I can in the next few moments attempt to get through some of the things that I have to say, for everyone has heard about Kahane, but how few of you have heard Kahane, and the defamation, the attacks, and the libel. Defamation is the last refuge of non-thinkers. These are non-thinkers, small people, dwarfs, pygmies, lacking in anything Jewish, whose lifestyle, whose Weltanschauung, whose entire outlook on life is based upon Hellenism, gentilized concepts. The country is falling apart. As you sit watching this film, the state of Israel, the Jewish state, the dream of 2,000 years, is falling apart. Whatever you think, you know nothing. Every day there are things that take place in this country that you do not hear about. The stoning of cars throughout the country, not the territories, inside the state, inside the Green Line. Jews are afraid today to ride on certain highways inside the Jewish state. Jews are afraid today to walk to the Kota, the Western Wall, through Shar Shechem, Damascus Gate. Can you imagine the 2,000 years we had a dream that someday we would have a state which would take us out of the galut and out of the fear. Now we have a state. It is a state of fear. If a child is late coming home, panic breaks out. What happened to him? Where is he? God forbid. Arabs. This is the reality of Israel. This is the Israel that one sees when one is not a tourist, but when one lives here and speaks Hebrew and is part of the country. Every week a Jew is murdered in Israel. Every day they burn down our forests. Every day cars are stoned, Malta Cocktail is thrown. Who is the winner and who is the loser? Who controls this country? Who is the balabait? Who's the owner? You ride on a Jewish bus. In every Jewish bus there are signs warning of a suspicious object. If one sees such an object, panic breaks out. They stop the bus. They flee from the bus. The police come. The bomb squad comes. They paralyze the area for an hour. We ride on an Arab bus. It's a pleasure. To begin with, there are no signs of warning of anything because in 40 years they've never found a suspicious object on an Arab bus. So they ride quietly and tranquilly. And we, the owners, we fear. I've become an expert at funerals, at Shiva, at Shloshi, at memorials. Every week they kill Jews here. And every week a Likud member of the government, whether it's Sharon or Shamir, nobody cares, makes a bombastic speech saying we will cut the hand off, or they will never overcome us, or we shall overcome. It's all nonsense. Nonsense. It's a formula speech which is read at every single funeral. The question is, what is going to be? Soldiers are angry, frustrated, bitter. They give a soldier a gun and send him to Gaza, and then tell them if they insult you, you aren't allowed to react. They spit at you, you aren't allowed to react. If they throw stones at you, you have to have to react. And if you do, you go to jail. An Ethiopian Jew, just this past month, in Gaza, as a soldier, shot an Arab. He should have received a medal for it. Instead, he received a year in jail. He's now sitting in Kilashish, a military prison. A year. It's not a normal country, not a normal people. 2 weeks ago, in Shechem, a settler with his wife driving through Shechem, attacked by tens of Arabs, stones, bottles. The wife was injured, he was injured. He got out of his car and shot wildly with an Uzi. He wounded 8 Arabs. And an investigation was immediately announced to see whether the circumstances called for what he did. Not more. Not more. We are stricken by a terrible disease that is Jewish AIDS. It's called guilt. Guilt. Needless guilt. Mad guilt. Insane guilt. Jews have honed guilt to a fine art. We feel guilty about everything, whether we did it or didn't do it. We deserve it or don't deserve it. The Ramban speaks of a perverted concept of mercy, which he calls Rachmanut shel Tipshim, the mercy of fools. Of course Jews have mercy. We are merciful, sons of merciful. Rachmanim b'nei Rachmanim. But the mercy of fools is that mercy which says be merciful unto people who want to kill you. And the rabbis boom out the concept. If one comes to slay you, slay him first. And then they say, he was mercy upon the cruel, will someday be cruel unto the merciful. And we are cruel today unto our own people. Insanity, madness. During the war in Lebanon, my son served in artillery. He told me when he came back, they received orders that should a terrorist position be located inside a village, that they were not allowed to give fire cover to the infantry unless they kill our women and children. Do you know how many Jewish soldiers died because of that insane, immoral, criminal order? All the Arabs in Lebanon are not worth the life of one Jewish soldier. That is Judaism. That is ethics. That is morality. I don't know what is going to be, but I do know that if we continue in this way, God forbid, there will be no Israel. The real problem has nothing to do with stones or bombs or violence. The real problem is the kind of issue that I raise, which is so painful, touches the worst of nerves and the worst of the psyches in the Hellenists who control the Jewish state and the community. The question of the contradiction, the basic immutable contradiction between a Jewish state, between Zionism on the one hand, and between Western democracy on the other. That's a painful thing. Because all of us would like to believe that Zionism, the Jewish state, is Burke and Rousseau and Jefferson. It is not. There's a contradiction between Western democracy and a Jewish state. It can't be solved. One has to choose either this or the other. A Jewish state means a state with a majority of Jews. Otherwise, it is not a Jewish state. A Jewish state is one that demands that there will always be a majority of Jews. Because only in that way can we put an end to a 2,000-year-old situation in which, as a minority, we enjoyed such minority benefits as crusades and inquisitions and pogroms and Auschwitzes. But Western democracy doesn't want to hear about a Jewish state or an Arab state. Western democracy says, whoever's the majority is the majority. If the Arabs, peacefully, don't have enough babies to be the majority, then they have a right, a basic right to be the majority, and then vote Israel out of existence as a Jewish state. That's the contradiction. Why do you think a Mendel Kaplan or Saudi Sachs, not to mention a Dinitz and Peres or a Shamir, but there's no difference between Shamir and Peres on this issue. Why do you think that they've been terrible about Kahane? Yes. Why do you think they won't debate me? No one will debate me. No one. They're afraid. They're afraid that I'll get up and I'll ask the following question, which I now ask you. Do the Arabs have a right to peacefully, non-violently, democratically have enough babies and be the majority within the state of Israel? Yes or no? What can they say? Yes, then they're anti-Zionists. What can they say? No, then they're Meir Kahane. Except not quite as quick. That's the contradiction. Either that, either a Jewish state, either Zionism, or Western democracy. And then you can watch as in 5 years, as in 10 years, 15 Arabs, 20 Arabs, 30 Arabs, 40 Arabs, 61 Arabs, majority sit in the Knesset. Is that what you want? Are you prepared to allow them non-violently to take away the one Jewish state that exists? I'm not. I'm not a fool. If there is a contradiction between Western democracy and a Jewish state, I say it loud and clear. It is a Jewish state which will be. The nonsense of people speaking about the opposite of peace being territories. The fools, including rabbis, including at least one in your own country. The absolute of peace is territories. The 1967 boundaries, that was the absolute of peace. Of course, 1967, that is the absolute of peace. How wonderful it was in 1966. And I could never understand why in 1929 the Arabs massacred Jews in Hebron. 67 Jews in one day were massacred. What was bothering them in 1929? Now I know, thanks to your chief rabbi, most such people. Now I know. The reason why Arabs massacred Jews in 1929 was the occupied lands of 1967. The reason why they massacred 510 Jews between 1936 and 1938 was the occupied lands of 1967. The reason why they turned down a Palestine in 1947, a UN partition plan, was because of the occupied lands of 1967. Nonsense. The problem is the existence of a Jewish state of any kind, of any shape, of any form. And the Arabs are not the problem either. The Arabs we can handle easily. It's the Jews that are the problem. The foolish Jews, the tiny Jews, the dwarfs, those without yarmulkes and those with. I'm an extremist. I'm the most normal of all Jews. The extremists are those fools who know full well what the answer is, and yet who are so afraid of what will the Gentiles say that they would rather commit suicide. If you want to see a Jewish state, there's only one answer, and that is the removal of the Arabs from the land of Israel. I don't hate Arabs, I love Jews, which is not always an easy thing. The Arabs have 22 countries of their own. God bless each and every one of them. The Jews don't have 22 countries. We only have one country. It is ours, not theirs. It is not ours and theirs. It is only ours. In the same way that the Syrians, who say it is not ours and the Jews, it is only ours, would please God that your chief rabbi and your Mendel Kaplans and your Board of Deputies would have the same kind of national pride that Arabs have for themselves. The answer is to remove the Arabs, whether they want to or don't want to. I'm not interested in asking them whether I can live. I want an exchange of populations. We took in 800,000 Sephardic Jews from Arab countries beginning in 1948. We took Jews from Arab countries into Zion. Now let us complete the exchange. Let us give them Arabs from Zion to Arab countries. May they live there happily, ever after, but not in my country. Not in my country, which they really believe is their country. What will happen? How will we remove them? I'm appalled at the question which I'm asked constantly. But how? What do you mean, but how? If you have no choice, you simply do it. And we have no choice. When the Arabs wake up, please God, in a few years, and put on their radios and hear that the new Prime Minister is Kahane, half of them will be across that border within a day. They understand me. Because I understand them. Because I don't play games with them as Jewish liberals do. We'll raise their living standards and they'll be good Arabs. Arabs don't want a raising living standards as much as they want their own state. And they look upon the entire land as their state. Because I respect them, I know you can't buy them by giving them indoor toilets. I want them out. They will go out. They will go to Jordan. Jordan doesn't want them, so what? I don't want them either, and I'm stronger than Jordan. We'll seize the two bridges for 2 days, give them the Arabs, and then return the bridges to them. What will the world say? The world will scream. A month, 2 months, 3 months, their staying power is not very, very great. What world? Togo, Congo, Zimbabwe, Hong Kong, Singapore? You don't mean the world, you mean America. What will America say? What makes anyone think that America cares about Jews or Arabs? America cares about America. America cares about self-interest. In this world there are no allies, there are only interests. If America believes that its interest is a strong, powerful, stable, anti-Soviet ally in that region, there's only one such country, Israel. If not Israel, who? Abu Dhabi? So Israel will feel the brunt of world anger for half a year. And then it will pass. And America will pro forma condemn. And then it will pass to Mr. Schultz, who comes regularly to Israel with his plans. Usually goes back to Mr. Schultz. That's what will all happen, no matter who the Secretary of State is, or no matter who the President is. But above all, the answer to the question, but what will the world say? The question is, what will God say? Where's our faith? Where's our belief? We're a Jewish people that for 2,000 years lived irrationally. Because there was a God. And the God of Israel is stronger than Ronald Reagan, or Dukakis, or Jesse Jackson. Of course we have faith. And if we do that which God wants, and believe me, the things that I have said about the transfer of Arabs, the expulsion of Arabs, is halakha. If we do that which she wants, then of course he'll do that which we want. One other point, probably the most painful point for you. For 2,000 years, we Jews dreamed of a state. 3 times a day, we would pray, your eyes behold thy return to Zion. Well, he has returned to Zion. But you have not. You and all the Jews of the Galut. You have not. You remain in the Galut. And in your case, in a Galut that is infinitely dangerous. Infinitely so. I appeal to you. Because I love Jews. This is a message of love. Get out and come home. Don't go to Melbourne. Don't go to Canada. Come home. Home is Israel. It is dangerous in Israel. Of course it is dangerous in Israel. But that's only because we don't do that which which God wants. But the galut is a graveyard no matter what the Jew does, because God doesn't want us there. So come home. It's difficult. You'll help me make it easier. Please God, this year there's an election. Thank God we will finally put an end to this odd couple. Peres and Shamir, both of whom lost, helpless, hapless people. No ideas, no vision, no greatness, no Jewishness. Please God, this election we will be the third largest party in Knesset. And what the Knesset that will be, what a government that will be, because there will be no government capable of being formed without Kahane at this election. We're going to make this a Jewish state, not a state of Hebrew-speaking Gentiles. We're going to put an end to the tragedy that began in 1948 when 800,000 Sephardic Jews who came to Israel as the finest of communities, every one of them a religious Jew. They were destroyed spiritually. There was a Holocaust in Israel. There was a Holocaust in Israel, not a physical one, and not one perpetrated by Gentiles. It was a spiritual one. Jews against Jews, a deliberate one, out of fear that if the Sephardic Jews who were pouring into the country stayed religious, they would not vote for the Labour Party. And so they took Jewish youngsters, put them into kibbutzim, ripped from them their Jewishness, and gave them the values of Western civilization, Dizengoff streets. Taught them a culture of drugs and pornography and crime, which they never knew when they were primitives, so to speak, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Morocco. We are going to change that. We're going to take a school system which will teach Judaism. It will be Jewish. There's so much that we will do. Who is a Jew will be amended. It will be defined by halakha. Missionaries will not be able to live in Israel. Terrorists caught will be automatically given a death sentence, an automatic one without any response by judges. There's so much that we will do. You can help. You don't live in Israel yet. Until you finish packing and come to Israel, you can give us the money, the funds. I'm not asking you to give money for a yeshiva, which is a great thing, or for a college, or for a library. I'm asking you to give me money so that I can ensure that all the yeshivot and all the libraries and all the colleges and all the institutions and all the people of Israel survive. I don't know how much Israel means to you, and I don't know how much you realize the danger that Israel faces. I'm not speaking of dangerous times, terrible times. I'm speaking of, God forbid, destruction. Give us the funds. Give us the money. Give more than you've ever given to anyone. Because I speak of the survival of Israel and of the Jewish people. Please, God, in a few months, I hope to come to South Africa as a cabinet minister and to meet you personally. Until then, make sure that I am a cabinet minister. And be the kinds of Jews you should be. The kinds of Jews your grandparents and great-grandparents dreamed of. Faith in God and a strong Jewish army that will bring the Messiah.